Hello everyone, welcome back. So, today I am going to make what is called a Costrel. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Basically, it's a leather water bottle. So I'm going to be referring it to as a leather water bottle. Got myself a cup of coffee over here. So I watched a bunch of videos on people making them. It looked relatively easy to me, and I haven't done a leather project in quite a while. So I'm going to put some links in the description of a few of the people that I watched doing it, and I'll take you along. I'm not going to show every single stitch, but this will be enough to give you a good reference if you want to make one yourself. So basically what I have here is a template that I made out of poster board, okay? So I folded it in half, I drew the outline that I wanted, and opened it back up. And that's what I came up with. I'm going to estimate this is probably going to hold around 10 ounces maybe? Somewhere 10, 11, 12 ounces, something like that. It's not a huge one, but I wanted it kind of small enough and as unobtrusive as I could make it to fit in my cargo shorts pocket. Alright, so once you have this cut out, you're going to need to use some vegetable tanned leather. It has to be vegetable tanned leather, okay? You don't want to use any chrome tan leather or anything else besides vegetable tan, because the other stuff is done with, well, chrome, and you don't want to put water and drink out of that. So I have two pieces of scrap leather, and what I'm going to do is place this down, draw around it, okay, very simple, using a pencil or whatever you happen to have, and I'm going to cut this out simply with a utility knife. And I'll bring you back when I have both pieces cut out. Alright, so I have it cut out. That took me probably about 20 minutes. If you never used a utility knife cutting leather, you have to kind of be careful. What happens is you could very easily slip past the line. So you basically kind of got to go over it twice. Okay, but it came out very good, matches up nice. And I'll give you a couple tips. If you have a corner, let's just say I'll draw a corner here, okay? And you take the knife, okay, and you want to cut that corner, okay? So start the knife. Let me see if I can zoom in. When I zoom in, it gets a little fuzzy. And you can't see that, can you? Let's just use a Sharpie. Okay, so there's a corner that we want to cut. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your knife and put this, see if I can explain it, perpendicular to the corner like that. Okay, so you're going to put it right at the corner and you're going to press down, straight down into it. Okay, and then you could take it back out and you could go down your line, then go back into that corner, and you could finish making your line. Okay, then you come this way, and unfortunately I can't see it with the Sharpie, but I'll try to eyeball it. So I'm pressing it in, if you can see that. Okay, perpendicular, and then I'll make my line. And as you can see, that came out perfectly, okay? If you look at the back, there's no overcut right here in that corner, okay? So what happens is if you try to just go like this to a corner, and try it this way and see if I can explain it. What ends up happening is, if you can see on the back, the corner doesn't get cut. Hello, camera, focus. Okay. You see it doesn't get cut? And it stayed on there. Okay, then the only other option you're going to have is to come in and kind of go down like that and cut it out, because you don't want to have an overcut like that. You don't want a corner like that. Okay, just one little tip. All right, let me zoom out. All right, so now the next step is kind of controversial, and that is gluing it. Okay, I've seen people glue it with contact cement, rubber cement, wood glue, and I've read a ton of comments, oh, that's toxic and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, I personally use contact cement because it's the best as far as I'm concerned with leather. And people are like, oh, it's very toxic, and some people are like, oh, you know, it off gases, and once it's off gas, it's not toxic. Well, here's the thing, okay? I want these edges to be perfect, all right? And the only way I'm going to get these edges perfect is if I sand this. So the only way I'm going to be able to sand this perfectly with them both together is either stitch it first and then sand it, or I'm going to use a little bit of glue. Now, I'm opting to use glue. I'm not telling you to use glue. If you use glue, you're using the glue on your own, okay? I am not recommending it, and I'm not recommending it. So if you use it at your own risk, all right? Now, one other thing I did was I left a little extra on the top here, about 1/4 of an inch, because I'm actually going to glue the top there also, which is going to get cut off, so it's a non-issue. Now, also, in this area here, this is never going to get in contact with water, so I'm going to glue that, all right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, I have my little homemade tools that I mark leather with. And again, I'll use this little piece as a sample. So the way this is cut, hopefully it shows up. This one is lower than this one, so I use this right side as a guide. And if I place this on my leather and I follow it down, it gives me my stitch line. Hopefully that shows up. Okay, so now when I put the glue on, I am going to make sure I am well behind that line. So the glue will go here. Just a small little smear of glue. Okay? And the reason for that is once it's stitched, and we're going to water seal it basically with beeswax, the beeswax is going to seal at that thread line, and it's never ever going to come in contact with that glue line unless it's leaking, and you're not going to be drinking leaking water, and you're going to have to reseal it anyway. So again, if you use glue, use it at your own risk. I'm going to do it because I'm confident that I'm going to be able to keep just a very, very small edge of glue on this inside here. So what I'll do is I'll run my stitch line on the inside so I could see it, and I'll make sure it's just on the edge, and that's going to keep that tight, so I'll be able to sand it, and then when I make my stitch line on the outside, it should be nice and straight. So I'm leaving out some steps. I didn't show you me cutting it because that's 20 minutes of me cutting it, which is boring. And I'm not going to show you me gluing it because watching glue dry is just as boring. But I'm showing you exactly what I'm doing. Again, I'll leave some links in the description. If you're looking for a more detailed video on how to do it, you know, go check it out. Again, they have step by step by step. I mean, I'm giving you step by step, but I'm trying to leave out the boring parts and the time-consuming parts, so it's not a, you know, hour-and-a-half video. So let me get this glued up, and I'll be back. All right, so it's all glued up. Here's another tip: use a soft mallet or a very clean ball peen hammer. It's got to be clean so you don't leave marks. And you're going to tap all around, give it a good shot where you glued, okay? Now, hopefully this shows up. As careful as I was to get it perfectly lined up, I didn't. And I'll be honest with you, I've made tons and tons of leather projects, foraging pouches, mag pouches, knife sheets, holsters, and as careful as I am, when you have that contact cement on there and those two pieces meet, they do not want to come apart. And I mean, I was careful. Most of it came out great, but again, right there in that one spot, don't know what happened to me there, but could be when I was cutting out the pattern, both sides weren't equal. So now I'm going to take this over to my belt sander, and I'm just going to sand the edges, okay? If you don't have a belt sander, you can use some type of block of wood with a piece of sandpaper on it and do this all by hand, okay? So I'll bring you back when that's done. All right, so it's all sanded. As you can see now, it's pretty dang good. Had to do it by hand around here. Couldn't get that on my machine. So the next step is we're going to put our border line, our stitch line. You could use, this is a homemade tool. You could use a pair of calipers. You could use a pair of dividers. You could do it by eye, whatever you happen to have. And basically all I'm going to do is come down here like this. And that gives me my stitch line. All right, when I'm done with that, all right, so I have the outline of my stitches. I added a little section right there. Next is to punch the holes. Now, I happen to make a couple punches. This one is approximately 3/16, I'm sorry, 1/4 inch. And this one is approximately, what do we got? 1, 2, it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5/32. Okay, so again, you could buy a punch. You can use a regular, this happens to be an ice pick. You could use a drill bit. You could use a nail, whatever you happen to have. Okay, so again, I'm going to punch the holes all the way around in preparation of the stitching, and I'll bring you back. All right, so I have all the holes punched. I had one little, oops. I don't know what happened on this side. It's actually a little damp. I had some spots here. And the only thing I could think of is there was something on this piece of masonite when I was punching the holes. Because when I turned it over, I saw all these little spots. So I tried to just, use some water and paper towel to wipe it off, and they did not come off. So I don't know what they are. And I said, oh, you know what I'll do? I'll stain it, right? I'll get like a saddle color stain or something. Then I said to myself, nah, it is what it is. It was part of the process that I did. I don't know what it is. Like I said, the only thing I could think of is something right here. But when I try to do this on my fingers, it doesn't really come off. So I have no idea. But when I do the waxing of this, it's going to make this whole thing a very dark brown anyway. So we'll just make that the back. The back, which has character. Character. You all know what character means. I made a mistake. So yeah, I mean, I didn't actually make a mistake. I just don't know what that is. But holes are there. So next thing is I'm going to saddle stitch it. Again, I'm not going to show it. I'm going to, hopefully I remember to put all the links I'm saying I'm going to put it in the description, but I have a few videos out of me saddle stitching stuff, giving some real detail on it, and I'll put that in the description, or you could just easily search up saddle stitching. I know I'm kind of shortcutting a bunch of stuff on this video. But again, I'm trying to just make it as short as possible, and get her done. So I'll bring you back once I have that all stitched up. All right, I decided to throw in a little clip and explain the saddle stitch. Instead of, I know I kept saying, oh, I'm going to put a link in the description, a link in the description. That's just going to make you have to go hunt for it. And I figured it would just be easier to show you. So, you have to think of a few things once you're getting ready to start your saddle stitch. How much thread you're going to need, okay? What size thread you're going to use. How thick the leather is. So if you have, 2 pieces versus 3 pieces or 4 pieces, that's going to determine the length of the thread that you're going to need, okay? So for a rule of thumb, let's say I was going to stitch this whole thing. Let me just get a ruler. Try to make it as comprehensive as possible. All right, so this is about 3 inches. So I would take 3 times 3, or even 4. Okay, so at the minimum, I would need 9 inches to sew this. Okay, preferably go 4 times. Right, so 3 times 4. Right, you have 12 inches. So now you have that 12 inches that you're going to need to stitch this. Now you want to add onto that, at the minimum, 24 inches. Okay? Even 36 inches. All right? And I'll explain why. As you're stitching this, you need to put tension on the thread. And if you don't have enough thread to put tension on it, your stitches are not going to look right when you get towards the end, and you're not going to be able to basically set them. Okay? Believe me, I know. And if you run short at the end, you're kind of messed up. All right? So if you see you're going to run short, before you get to the point where the thread's unusable because it's too short, you backstitch a couple and then get a new piece of thread and continue on. Okay? And I'll explain what backstitching is in a second. All right, so I have just a sample here. I got a bunch of holes. This is going to represent the top of where like the cork goes in. So what I did was, you come through the hole and you're going to even up your thread. Okay? Now I came over the top, and you're going to want to pull this thread up like this, because you do not want to split your thread. Okay? And pull this through. I do the same thing when I'm making knife sheets, because I don't want this seam to split open. You got to picture this 2 pieces here. I know I'm only showing 1. But I have that overhand knot there. And you're going to grab the pieces. And this is why you need all that extra length. And believe me, I have cut grooves into my fingers from tightening this. If I'm doing a ton of stitching, I will actually put a piece of black tape or duct tape on this finger right here and this finger right here. So when I grab the thread in there and I pull it, I'm not cutting into my skin. Now hopefully you can see that. It kind of got very tight. Now, sometimes I'll even go around twice. But for this example, I'll just show you once. Now, you take one other side of the thread, put it through that hole, snug it up a little bit, and you want to hold it up. Again, you do not want to split the thread. Put this one in on this side. And again, you want to snug it up. Come back to the front. Okay, hold it up. Once you get your rhythm down, and I'm doing this behind a camera tripod, which makes it weirder, but once you get your rhythm down, you could do this pretty quick. Again, push it through, snug it a little bit. And again, you want to pull that away from the bottom of the hole because you're going to take your needle and go through the bottom of the hole. Now, fair warning, if your holes are tight, you're going to need a pliers to grab that needle and pull it through, okay? If you find that's the case and you're having a big problem, you could get a drill bit, very small drill bit, and drill out the holes. It makes them more consistent. When you punch the holes, they kind of, cone shaped, for lack of a better term, or tapered. See the nice stitching there? All right. We'll do this last hole. Okay, now at this point, you're going to want to do what's a back stitch to lock this thread. So now you're going to go backwards. So you want to find that hole right there, and you want to try to go right between the threads. See that? Hopefully you saw that. I didn't pierce the threads. Slide that through. See, now it's getting tight. So you grab a pliers and just pop it through. Okay, make sure it's nice and neat. Snug that up. Make sure everything's snug. Now you're going to do the same thing. You're going to pull this down. You're going to come in and find that hole again. Wiggle it through. As you can see, hopefully it shows, I didn't pierce the thread. Okay. Now, at the very minimum, I would do 2 back stitches, but I've also been known to do more, like 3. All right, so you snug that up. Okay, so we'll just do that one so you see how it was done. Now you're going to take a scissor, or if you're careful enough, you can use a razor blade, and you're going to cut that off. And there should be a little nub. You're probably not going to even be able to see it. You take your lighter and just touch it. It'll melt. Okay? And then when you're done, get a soft mallet or hammer and just set your threads. And that's how you saddle stitch. Now, if you use that grooving tool, the setting of the threads isn't so critical because they'll kind of be below the level of the leather. But I'm still practicing using that. I have never actually did it except for just playing around with it. And then for making this water flask, bottle, Costrel thingamabob, I wasn't sure how I would do it around where the handles were. So anyway, this is the basic saddle stitch. And there you have it. All right, back to our regularly scheduled program. All right, so the stitching is all done. And I went over the top here, if you could see that. So what I did was I stitched down this way to the bottom, did a back stitch, then stitched down this way and did a back stitch. I wanted the back stitches to be down here for 2 reasons. To tighten this up down here and also make it much cleaner up here and not have back stitching running down there. Okay, so the stitch ran along this line this way to keep that separate from here, and then this little part here where you would hang it is stitched separately. So that's what it looks like. I tried to clean this again and just made it worse. But it's not going to matter. Alright, so next step, I have some warm water And we're going to place this in the water. Now hopefully you can see that. There's bubbles. See all those bubbles? So that's the air escaping out of the leather, okay? So you want to leave this in there. I would say this is because it's double thick, and right now there's no way of the water getting inside, for a good half an hour, okay? Maybe even longer. I'll have to see how pliable it is. But basically, when the bubbles stop, it's pretty much saturated, okay? So we're going to let that soak, and I'll bring you back. All right, so it's been soaking well over half an hour. I wanted to show you this. I beveled around the edge there, and I don't believe I showed you how to do it. They make this tool, it's called a beveling tool. And you just run it along the side. It takes off a little strip, leaves you a nice bevel. Now if you don't have that tool, you could definitely use a piece of sandpaper. All right, let's see. Let me come up a little bit more. All right. Ooh, nice and pliable. All right, what I have here is a burnishing tool. And I want to just start to get this open. Hindsight, I would have made this a little wider, because I think I'm going to have a problem doing the next step. Alright, what I want to do well, not the next step, but when I get to it, I just want to pour some water on the inside, just to make sure yep, it's going in there. You can see it's kind of swelling up in there. Alright, I'm going to leave that just for about 10 minutes, and I'll bring you back. Alright, so it's been about 5-ish minutes. I'm good with that. So now I take the funnel out. We pour the water out. Ooh, look at that, huh? Look at all those tannins, or whatever they use, came out of there. Wow. Cool. Very pliable. Alright, let me grab a paper towel. Let me get rid of this water. Alright. Alright, so the next step is we're filling it up with popcorn. We got to get it shaped. Let me open this up, and hopefully I don't make a mess. Alright, now I got to get this funnel back in there. And this is why I should have made this much bigger. Alright. I'm just going to take popcorn. And as I thought, it's not going in very easily. So I just have a dowel here. Yeah, that's not going down. Okay, I gotta find something to stretch this neck out a little bit because that didn't work. All right, I don't even know if that was recording. So I've just used the dowel and I end up getting them down in there. And this is gonna take a while. So let me fill it the rest of the way up and I'll bring you back. All right, well that was a royal pain in the butt, okay? That's about all I could get in there. I was pounding with this thing. I was using a hammer. That's it. Now, as you can see, it kind of gets a little distorted, so you're going to want to kind of straighten that out as best you can. Now, I bought some corks. We're going to take a cork. Hopefully, I can get that in there. What do I need? Something to enlarge that, which I'm not going to be able to stick this in because I got corn. Oh, there you go. Now, I'm going to want to... I might have to destroy this getting it out, but I bought two. All right, so there you have it. Now, this has to dry at least overnight. And if it's not dry the next day, well, then leave it longer, okay? Don't be tempted to put it in the oven or anything because if you don't do it at a low temperature, it's actually going to ruin it. So just let it dry naturally. If it takes a day, great. It takes 2 days, great. So I'll bring you back when that's done. All right, so this is all dried up. It's funny how some of those stains kind of came out, which I'm pleased with. It's nice and hard. Now it's time to get the corn out. Ooh, that was easier than I thought. Wow. Okay. I'm pleased with that. So what do you all think? How much water is going to fit in there? Let me give you some measurements before I forget. So we got about 5.5 inches that way. So figure about a 5.5 inch circle. To the top, let's see, that's about 7.5 inches. Up here, about 3.25. So we got 80 millimeters, 90 millimeters, 45 millimeters, 5.75. All right, so I was gonna let this dry for. Right now I'm feeling this corn, and it feels cold or cool, okay, which is telling me it's got some moisture in it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this sit probably for a few hours to totally dry out. I might even put it in the oven. And again, when I say I'm going to put it in the oven, it's only going to be about 100, 110 degrees, 120 max. Okay? And it's important, do not put it in the oven at too high of a temperature. If you do that, you will destroy the integrity of the leather. Okay? I've done some wet molding where I dried it in the oven. One time, I forgot to lower the temperature and read the temperature before I put the item in, and it totally just shriveled up. So, be very careful if you do the oven method, or if I'm just going to let this sit out a little bit. Then over here, I have some beeswax. Chunks of beeswax, and I'm going to melt it in that crock pot that's dedicated to beeswax. So I'll have that melted, I have this dried, and I'll bring you back. All right, so the wax is melted. I did put this in the oven. I got it up to 100 degrees and I left it in there for about 15-20 minutes. So it's good and hard. So now we're going to start to seal it. I just have a little scooper and at the bottom of a water bottle here, and we're going to start this process. And I put some cardboard down. So we'll put the funnel here. Get out of here, fly. I'm in my garage with the door open. So we're going to give it about, what's that, 1.5 scoops. Put that down. And we're going to start to roll it around. And pour out the excess. Alright, that's our first. I'll do that again. Get away from me, fly. I hate flies. Alright. I have a little stopper here I made. Put that in so I can turn it upside down. Man, fly, I'm gonna kill you. Alright, looks like we're getting a nice coating in there. We'll do it one more time. Just to make sure. This time I won't add as much. Oh, this beeswax smells wonderful. I believe it was from orange blossoms. Alright, time will tell if we have the inside coated. Now we're going to get just a little chip brush here and start to paint the outside, and then we'll set it with a heat gun. Alright, got a good coating on there. Got a good coating on my hand also. Alright, let me get the heat gun. Alright. All right, so you get the idea. I'm going to do the other side, and I'll bring you back. All right, so we got all the wax on. Just take a cotton cloth and just start buffing it. I mean, you get the beautiful, look at that was the side with those stains. And the little scar here. I am digging it. Look at that, huh? And here's that other side. Boy, it immediately looks old. All right, so now I'm going to let this set up. I have no idea what the inside's going to look like. But I'm going to let it, it's still warm to the touch from being with the heat gun. So I'm going to let this set up. I'm probably going to leave it for a few hours. And then we'll come back and we'll actually see if it's waterproof. All right, so I actually let it sit overnight. I got just life started getting in the way yesterday, and yeah, so it sat overnight. But check it out. Look at that sheen on there. Those stains kind of disappeared. It's got some, you know, different color, different shades going all over the place. I got this cool scar right here. I mean, I'm really digging it. Check out the other side. So awesome. And I just, like I said, just took some cloth. All right, so here's the big test to see if it actually worked. So I have here, what is this? 16.9 fluid ounces, which is 500 milliliters. Let's see. Oh, something else I wanted to tell you real quick. Look at the holes. You see the holes? You see how they got kind of oval? That's how much I stretched it when I was packing it. I don't know, I thought that was cool. I was gonna, you know, make them round again, but I decided to leave it like that. And then also, I used a burnishing tool to burnish the ends. Hopefully you can see that. All right, back to the water test. Wow, that holds a lot of water. Trying to get it right to about there. Whoop, went a little too far. Well, I don't see any water leaking, which is a good thing. All right, we're going to leave it right there. Wow. I got it on the first try because it is not leaking. Okay. Now, let me just lean this over here for a moment. What I did was, I had started out with the cork, remember? First, like, right after the wet molding. I didn't like the cork for a couple of reasons. Let me fix this camera. All right. So, I didn't like the cork for a couple of reasons. It ended up going down too far, and I couldn't grab it. So, I messed around with a piece of walnut. Now, if you're going to use wood, there's certain woods you should avoid. And certain woods that are perfectly fine, like they're considered food safe. So you want to stay away from grains that are wider grains. How to explain it? More porous, because you don't want, you know, water to go in there and then get moldy and all of that nonsense. So walnut's a good choice. Basically, anything you would use to make a cutting board, like maple, walnut. I would have used maple if I had a nice chunk of it, but I did have a nice chunk of walnut. Now, I ended up using this one, and it stuck out about yo far, and I didn't like that. So then I decided to make another one out of walnut, and I made it much bigger so I could grab it and pull it out. And then I put this leather lace on it with a little deer antler button. So now that's going to go, whoop, I got to readjust the camera. Keeping in line with my fabulous camera skills. I have too much water in there? Yeah, it's pumping out the top. We don't want that. Let me dump a little more out. Okay, so now the idea is I could crank down on it. Alright, now here's the other big test. Does it leak out the top? Yes, it does. You know what? I'll be honest with you. I really did not have high hopes of it not coming out the top. Because, let me show you. Where the leather meets here, there's like, well, maybe you can see it better on this little sample piece I made. Let me put this over here. If you look right here, where the two pieces of leather meet, there's a big groove. Now, I'm either going to have to really slam that full of wax to get that not to leak in there, or just deal with it. Let me see if I put a cork in. See how far down the cork goes? But then how the heck am I going to get it out? You know, I can't grab it. And you can't put a, you know, a screw or something into cork. It's just not going to work. Still got some drips. All right, it's only dripping on one side. Okay. So that's not terrible. See, now I can't really get the cork out. Because cork is a little bit more flexible. So I'm looking here and I'm wondering if I can melt some more wax right here at the edge. Yeah, it's dripping on this side. All right, let me take this out. That's not totally critical for me at this point. All right, so what I want to do is, oh gosh, I forgot a measuring cup. Let me get a measuring cup and see how much water this holds. And I'll be right back. All right, we got some seepage right down here. So we're going to have to do another waxing. This side is fine. But I definitely have seepage coming out right there. Alright, that's okay. Let's see how much water this holds. Wow, okay. So that's way over a cup. I'm going to say it's about, what do we got? 275 milliliters, and I still have a little bit more in here. Let's see how much more I have in there. Okay, not much. So, ounces wise, 8, I'm going to say maybe, yeah, we're looking at about 10 ounces. I'm gonna call it 10 ounces, and you know what? That's what I was shooting for. So I'm definitely pleased with that. All right, so now I have to let this dry again because I don't want to put you know, hot wax in there while there's water in there. So I'm gonna let this dry out because I can see water dripping out. And we're going to re-wax it and try to address this top part and obviously the bottom part. Okay, so I did watch somebody who said they leave a lot of wax at the bottom. You know, I think he actually said about a quarter of an inch of wax. That might be excessive. I don't know, but obviously mine is seeping through the seam. So that also, if you look back when I started making this, and I added the glue just around the edge, well, that's proof that the glue is not anywhere near the water, because if it was, it wouldn't be leaking there. All right, so yeah, we're gonna let this dry, and we're going to re-wax it, and I'll bring you back for that process. All right, so we got it dried out as best I could. I blew some air in there also, and we're gonna start to wax this again. All right. I'm out of camera view, aren't I? All right. Let's give it a good sloshing down there. Use this one. All right, let's give it another shot. All right. Now I'm going to put a little extra on the outside also. Okay. Now I'm wondering, when I put the heat gun on it, that the heat gun is so hot basically that it's melting what's in there. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to heat it with it in this position. Hopefully that'll help. It's kind of weird to be able to hold it and do it, but let's see what happens. I'm wondering maybe if a hairdryer would work better, but let's try this. The problem is I can't hold the heat gun and this and use the brush. Man, that gets hot real quick. I actually think that may be the problem. Let me get a hairdryer hooked up. The temperature is not as high. I'll be right back. Alright, so I just got a regular old dusty hairdryer here. Let me get some of this dust gone. Alright, I gave up trying to hold it up, but you get the idea. Basically like I did the first time. So let me get this done, and I'll bring you back, and then we'll take it from there. That was a mess. Alright, so we got it waxed the second time. So again, I'm going to let it set up. Probably, I put a lot of wax in there that time, so I'm hoping it doesn't take too long. But I'm going to check back in a couple hours and see how hard it feels, because it's probably over 90 degrees outside, which is not helping the matter. But we'll see what happens, and I'll bring you back for the next water test. Alright, it's all dry. Round 2. Got my fingers crossed. See what happens. Alright, got it pretty filled. Let's pour a little out. What I'm going to do, it's sweating because it's so humid out. Obviously going to let it sit there a minute. And lean it up right there. Again, showing off my most excellent camera skills. Alright, I think it was sweating back here. There's a little water on it. That was from pouring it. I see no leaks. Make sure nothing's coming out. Now, I'm going to call that a success. Now, let's try the plug. I don't have high hopes for this. No way! No leakage! Check it out, folks. Alright, on to step 2. I made, let me get this back here, a very simple deer antler toggle. And my plans for this is, I pull this like this. Let me get a little something here. So let's pretend this is my belt. So I'm going to pull this behind my belt, come around here, and of course there's somebody cutting their grass, and have that as a toggle. And I can tighten it up. And I think I made this just long enough that it will sit in the side pocket of my cargo pants. So let's, now again, this isn't, I'm not going to be, this isn't for a whole day in the woods while I'm hunting. This is for, hey, I'm going in the woods for a half an hour hike. I just need to make sure I have a little bit of water to get me hydrated. When I'm hunting, I take a lot of water with me, okay? So, all right, let me Let me come around the other side of this camera.
So how
I want to do this is I'm going to go, let me figure this out. Let me make a measurement so I get it exactly how I want it. And again, I may change this down the road, who knows. So let's put, I'm trying to think of how I want to do this. I'm going to put a little knot here first. Alright. Actually, I shouldn't have done that. I'm not 100% digging this lace I have here. I actually made this out of a big sheet of leather that I had years ago. I made some lace out of it. So I have here just a little antler, a keeper, I guess, what you want to call it. This is going to be decorative. It's really not serving any other function than that. All right, let's get a measurement here. Let's make sure I got at least 4 inches. That'll work. All right, so let's see. If I put a knot here, I have this in my head, and I don't know how it's going to translate to being functional, but we'll see. All right, so we have that there. Put this, well, I have to put this through here. Then through this little part here. And the idea is not to make it too tight on here. So come on now. So now, there you go. So now when I pull that, those two knots will lock on that ring and not be too tight there. All right, let me do the other side and I'll bring you back. All right, well there it is. I got these on both sides. I put the stopper on the actual twine there, the lace, so I won't lose the stopper. I saw some people would punch another hole here to attach the stopper to, but I didn't want to do that. I mean, if I wanted to, I could actually go right through this loop, but that's how it will stay. And I have to check, double check that this is actually going to, you know, be where I want it on my side. I could always change this setup here and make it so that it goes around my shoulder or whatever, but the whole time, believe it or not, that took me like 15 minutes to do the other side. And then I forgot to put the stopper on. I had to unknot the stopper and then tie this. So 15 minutes that water's been in there. And it's not weeping out anywhere. It didn't drip out the top. So I'm going to call that a success. I think it's really cool. I mean, if you're doing like reenacting and stuff like that, you know, from not so much the 1800s, you know, but from like the 1700s and, you know, prior to that, like Renaissance stuff, this would be perfect. I mean, this could have been made by pretty much anybody that could have got their hands on some leather and some sinew and wax. And we all know that leather, sinew, and beeswax have been around forever. They found it in the pyramids. I mean, we're talking ancient technology. So that works out. I'm very, very, very pleased with the way it came out. I didn't mind that we had a little leak. I kind of was expecting that. First time ever making it, but man, it's really, really cool. And then, you could take this and scale it up. I've seen some folks make shot, like for bird shot, for muzzle loaders. They'll make little shot pouch, not really a pouch, but you know, out of these canister, let's say. Once you got this technique down, there's so many things you can make. So yeah, I'm definitely pleased. I'm going to take this out to the woods with me and see how it works out. Now, just a heads up. You're probably gonna get a little taste of wax. Okay? I'm gonna rinse it out a couple times and put some fresh water in it, but there may even be some particles of wax in there. But you don't have to worry because we made sure the glue wasn't anywhere near the water. And the wax, which is 100% natural beeswax with no additives. Now, this isn't something I bought online. I actually got it from a person that I know that, you know, sells honey and beeswax and stuff. And I watched her pull it out of a barrel. So, yeah, if you got good quality beeswax, you could actually eat it. So we don't have a problem there. So there you have it, folks. I know it was a very long video, but I didn't want to do a part 1, part 2, part 3. So I just figured, look, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to show you any mistakes I made, which you did see, and then the end result. I am thoroughly pleased. I decided to try it before I ended the video. So this is working out great here. It's hanging on the belt. And it fits right into my pocket. It sits right there. The bottom is touching the bottom of my pocket, which is perfect because I didn't want it swinging around, and I really don't like putting stuff over my shoulder more than I have to. So yeah, check it out. I'm sending you all much, much love and appreciation, my brothers and sisters. Thanks for coming along. I hope it inspires you to try something like this and get a little creative. So, thanks for coming, and we'll see you on the next one.